I'm Mike, and today we're going to look at the recent study about carrying capacity, about how many people different diets can sustain using US land, and the accompanying anti-vegan media armada which came with it, with gems such as, actually, you shouldn't be vegan to save the planet. Veganism isn't as good for humanity as you think. And from AOL, if you're vegan, listen up, you may want to change your habits. We're going to look at how these media outlets are taking the study out of context, and also how a vegan diet did pretty amazing compared to our current diet, all while the study was stacked against a vegan diet at every turn. Veganism has actually had quite a lot of wins lately. There was that study that showed that a vegan world would save millions of lives, another about how it is the best diet to feed the world, and with the USA's only weightlifter that made it to the Olympics breaking US records, the animal protein myth is crumbling. So somebody had to poop on this parade. Here's a study behind the parade pooping carrying capacity of US agricultural lands from the journal Elementa. It says that a vegan diet performs 5th out of 10 in terms of potential land use, which is better illustrated by this chart from Quartz BAM number 5. So specifically, if you're trying to produce as much food as possible using all the US land, a vegan diet loses out to some diets containing meat, and especially diets that are vegetarian containing dairy and or eggs. First, I want to cover some stuff that you will not hear about in the media. A direct quote from the study: livestock production is the largest land user on Earth. And they show that a vegan diet uses the least amount of land per person out of any other diet, specifically 1/5 as much land as our current diet, as this chart shows. And most antithetical to the media's spin, the conclusion includes a statement about how we need to eat more plant-based diets. So with all this, how does it end up painting vegan diets as a land loser? Well, it all comes down to grazing land, or I should say their assumptions about grazing land. Of course, vegans don't use grazing land, and they say, quote, grazing land by definition is not arable. So in their model, if you lower meat consumption by 60 to 80% and then also graze in that non-arable land, you can support more people than a vegan system. But you need a lot of grazing-only land to make a livestock system look good. To be better than a vegan system, you need to claim that, well, convenient, a livestock system can utilize almost 5 times as much land as a vegan system. They use some pretty shady things to accomplish this. They don't just knock out grazing land in a vegan system, they also knock out perennial cropland. As Vice put it, a vegan diet doesn't make use of grazing or perennial cropland. And from the Quartz article, perennial cropland supports crops that are alive year-round and are harvested multiple times before dying, including a lot of grain and hay used to feed livestock. So you can grow grain on this land, you just can't feed it to humans. There's no way that we could support humans with this land. In all seriousness, you absolutely can. You can grow a variety of crops, including cereal rye, which does well in arid environments and low soil fertility. They don't say this outright, but with this trick, they remove 39 million hectares of land from the vegan model. Keep in mind, there's only 95 million hectares of land that they allow to the vegan model. With this 1/3 increase in land, a vegan diet would crush all the other diets. Another thing they take away in the vegan system is forests. They claim that grazing land includes some woodlands, as if there's no way to produce plant foods from a forest. They completely ignore forest farming, which can produce fruits, nuts, berries, greens, and mushrooms. Another really important point, they seem to have a very skewed estimate for the arable land in the US, a very lowball estimate. The amount of available vegan cropland is only 95 million hectares, and with those perennial croplands that we can't use, that's 134 million. But even when you look at the World Bank's estimate, we have 155 million hectares of arable land in the US. And as the study says, the more cropland that is available, each diet except the vegan diet eventually reaches a plateau. This is probably because of the exponential inefficiency of feeding animals crops. So with the World Bank's figure on arable land, a vegan diet would sweep the contest. And I really just find this a little offensive for the farmers of the world. Their definition of arable land would mean that before this was terraced, it probably wouldn't have been considered arable, and this wouldn't even be considered grazable. And in the Aran Islands off the coast of the UK, they took stony land that was believed to be unfarmable, and they added seaweed to it, and now they can grow potatoes. Don't even get me started on greening the desert. Yeah, these are potential solutions, and they aren't really our current situation, The point is, even the FAO says, quote, data for arable land are not meant to indicate the amount of land that is potentially cultivable. And we are talking about how to potentially feed as many people as possible here. I'm not done yet. I also have a discrepancy in the caloric breakdown that they used in the vegan model. They use less than 20% of their land for grains, which is calorically extremely unstrategic. For example, you can grow 15 million calories per acre using corn, but they allotted about a quarter of the entire land use to nuts and pulses. Nuts are about 3 million calories per acre, and soy, for example, is only 2 million. That's 5 to 7 times less efficient, highlighting a pretty poor caloric portfolio, and I think you could probably get 20% more calories with this land without compromising a well-balanced diet. So it appears they decided to give a vegan diet the short end of the stick at every turn in their model. But what would it look like if they actually gave it a fair look? If they planted human crops in perennial croplands, that would get a boost. Then if they took a realistic number for arable land, another boost. Redid the crop breakdown for more calories, another boost. And utilized forested lands, who knows where it could have ended up. There is a reason other studies have not come up with their conclusion. I have to highlight this study that I quickly passed over at the beginning. That was in the journal Nature Communications. It looked at over 500 diet scenarios, and it showed that 85% of Western diets fail to feed the world by 2050. Some vegetarian diets fail, but a vegan diet never fails. But this super recently published Guardian article by a livestock advocate presents a counter-argument that I think some people are going to latch onto. They basically say, hey vegans, you hate poor Africans because there are places where they can only graze to make food. Would you deny them that? To that I have to say we could feed every single person who's going hungry in the world with the grain that we feed to animals in North America alone. And the leading cause of desertification in Africa is grazing. Would you deny them the ability to desertify their land? But isn't it a bit Nazi-ish to remove livestock from the system? Well, the reality is when you have livestock, people feed them grain that they otherwise should be feeding to humans. They grow hay where they could otherwise grow human crops as well, and they feed them through the winter. We're talking about worldwide strategies here, and in a vegan strategy, as that study showed, a vegan diet has the best chance of feeding the world, and it does not destroy the planet in the process. Which brings me to an important distinction, which is land use versus environmental well-being. A lot of these media outlets are taking the best way to feed the most amount of people on a certain amount of land to mean how the planet is doing as a whole. That is wrong. There is a reason Quartz changed their article from veganism isn't as good for the environment as you think to veganism isn't as good for humanity, maybe because veganism doesn't support animal agriculture, which is the leading driver of species extinction, desertification, rainforest destruction, dead zones, arguably the leading emitter of greenhouse gases. So it turns out veganism is better for humanity than you think. In the end, it appears the media will spin whatever study they find in the way that will, of course, get the most clicks, please the most people, and in this case, putting veganism down does that. They can literally take a study that says eat less meat and make it about how veganism sucks. The fact of the matter is, vegans are saving the planet for all the reasons I previously listed, and also because we use 4/5 less land and we preserve habitat now. So base your diet off that and how it treats animals, not just some scientists look at just land use and just one country. It might actually be a good sign that people are getting so insecure about their diets that they can take a study that says a vegan diet is twice as good as their diet and still try and spin it in a way that makes them feel good about the way they're eating. Alright, that's it for today. Feel free to like and subscribe and comment what you think down below, and see you next time.